So, Arthur, let's get back to it. What is your best evidence for your claim that NDEs are more than merely hallucinations?
Well, the fact is, there are some things that simply do not fit Janet's theory. For example, the studies about patients recreating their resuscitation. Two groups of cardiac arrest patients, after their recovery, were asked to describe their resuscitation. Both groups were of course unconscious during their resuscitation. After all, they had had a cardiac arrest, so their brains were not receiving blood, and were not functioning. But there was one major difference between the groups. One group was of patients who had had an NDE, the other group was of people who had not. The NDE group was asked to describe what they saw in their resuscitation. The other group was asked to give their best guess regarding what happened in theirs. If an NDE is just a dream, then both groups, when asked to recreate their resuscitation, would be pretty similar. But that's not what happened. Rather, the NDE group, the people who said that they saw their own resuscitation, were extremely accurate about the details. On the other hand, the people who did not have an NDE and were just trying their best to think of what must have happened, based on TV, things they had read, that sort of thing. That group didn't come anywhere close to being accurate. If the first group had not actually seen their resuscitation, and remember, they were comatose, then they would have been just as bad at recreating it as the second group. But the fact that they were tuned into what really happened, well, obviously, something else beyond a dream or hallucination is going on here. By the way, this is not just one study. It has been replicated.
Okay, let's not overstate things. You say replicated. There were 2 tiny studies. 2 studies, over what, 40 years? Woohoo. This brings up one of the big weaknesses of the NDE believers. Over decades of studies, NDE researchers haven't come up with anything that impresses you, much less any smoking guns. All they have are stories, from people who say that they had amazing experiences, and some isolated, tiny, anomalous studies. That is the best they have, after decades of research. Well, that isn't enough. There is a reason why science requires studies to be replicated over and over, and the reason is that a single study or even 2 studies can show anything. This is especially true when the 1 or 2 studies are done by people who desperately want to see a particular result, which is the case with the studies you are citing.
Oh, please. Decades of research? That makes it sound like researchers are out there by the thousands, with multi-million-dollar grants, constantly doing studies. I only wish that were the case. However, unlike, say, pharmaceutical research, there is no profit in NDE studies. Therefore, it is very hard to do studies, and not enough are done.
I think we can all sympathize with the difficulty of not having enough budget. But let's get back to the point. Arthur, is that all the evidence you have?
Oh, there's plenty more. There are countless situations where an unconscious person saw something that it was impossible for them to see, verified by credible doctors and nurses.
Stories, stories, stories. Completely unconvincing.
Please, Janet.